When you find yourself alone, abandoned by those you thought would stand beside you, you're standing at the edge of transformation. The moment the noise fades, when no one is clapping for you, that is when the true work begins. Most people fear being unsupported because they believe strength comes from numbers, from validation, from being seen. But the opposite is true. Power begins in isolation. The greatest minds, the most dominant leaders, and the most strategic individuals in history all faced the defining moments when they stood alone. When there is no one left to reassure you, you are forced to create your own certainty. You learn that belief is not a group activity. It's a silent decision made in solitude. Isolation has a way of stripping you bare. It removes the comfort of praise and the illusion of loyalty. You begin to see people not as supporters, but as opportunists. The truth is, people support you only as long as it benefits them. When your path stops serving their convenience, they disappear. That's when you must decide. Will you break down, or will you build your empire from the ground up? Because the man who learns to function alone becomes unpredictable. He is not tied to anyone's expectations. He doesn't wait for approval. He creates his own rhythm, and the world adjusts to it. In isolation, you meet your real self, not the version shaped by others, not the version that fits into a crowd, but the raw, unpolished, thinking self. It's uncomfortable at first. You start questioning your purpose, your direction, your worth. But stay in that discomfort. That's where the transformation begins. The longer you sit in solitude, the more power you collect internally. The mind becomes sharper, your emotions become disciplined, and your ambition begins to burn with a different kind of intensity. You stop chasing validation and start chasing mastery. When no one supports you, you stop performing. You stop wasting energy trying to please people who were never meant to understand your vision. You begin to think in terms of long-term moves, not short-term applause. You start strategizing. You observe more. You calculate more. And that's where you become dangerous. Not because you have followers, but because you no longer need them. The crowd cannot manipulate the man who has learned to thrive in isolation. Most people will never understand this power. They live in a constant state of dependency. Dependent on encouragement, dependent on agreement, dependent on being noticed. Their strength is borrowed. It collapses the moment they are ignored. But the one who embraces solitude builds strength that cannot be taken away. His confidence is self-generated. His purpose is self-defined. His value is self-proven. He no longer reacts to rejection. He uses it as confirmation that he's no longer part of the ordinary. In isolation, clarity becomes your closest ally. You begin to notice how the world truly operates, not through fairness or compassion, but through leverage and control. The more detached you become from external noise, the more you understand that power isn't given, it's taken. And the process of taking power requires stillness, patience, and a kind of emotional coldness that most people never develop. That coldness is not cruelty, it's control. It means you can move forward without needing approval. It means you can execute your plans without announcing them. It means you can suffer without showing weakness. Those who are afraid of being alone will never lead. They will always be followers, slaves to the opinions of others. But the individual who walks through the valley of silence and keeps going, he becomes untouchable. He learns to operate without applause, to win without noise, to progress without being seen. When you detach from the need for support, you rise above the human instinct of dependence. You become a strategist, not a dreamer. You stop asking for help, and you start building systems. You stop waiting for timing, and you start creating opportunity. You stop wondering who will believe in you, and you start believing in the strength that isolation has been forging inside you all along. Power begins in isolation because isolation removes illusion. It removes distraction. It removes weakness. It introduces you to your most potent self, the version of you that no longer needs to be understood or accepted to keep moving. When you reach that state, you begin to operate in silence, and silence is where the most dangerous kind of progress happens. Every plan, every idea, every move you make in solitude grows without interference. And one day, when the world finally looks your way, they'll call it overnight success, not realizing it was years of isolation that built the foundation for it. There comes a point in every ambitious person's life where they realize no one is coming to save them. No mentor, no friend, no family member, no miracle. It is the moment when the illusions of help fade and you see the world for what it truly is, a competition of self-interest. Everyone is busy securing their own survival, and the sooner you understand this, the sooner you stop expecting anyone to carry you. Strategic self-reliance is not just about independence, it's about control. It's about becoming so capable, so resourceful, that no betrayal, no abandonment, and no loss can cripple your movement forward. It's about constructing your own fortress, stone by stone, without relying on borrowed strength. The weak constantly look outward. They look for guidance, validation, or permission to act. But the strong, the ones who move with quiet authority, they look inward. They operate with a kind of detached precision that comes from knowing that everything they need already exists within them. When you master self-reliance, you no longer beg for opportunity, you create it. You stop waiting for others to open doors and begin building your own gates. That is the essence of true power. Not having everything handed to you, but knowing you can take whatever you need through skill, intelligence, and persistence. Dependence is the silent killer of greatness. It doesn't destroy you instantly, it weakens you gradually. Each time you lean on someone else for strength, you give away a piece of your power. You become predictable, and predictable people are easy to control. The ones who hold true influence are those who move independently. They can adapt to loss, adjust their plans, and rebuild from nothing. Self-reliance gives you that flexibility. It trains your mind to respond strategically instead of emotionally. When others panic, you remain composed. When others complain, you calculate. When others wait, you execute. To be strategically self-reliant means to view every situation as a chessboard. You do not rely on others to make the right move. You anticipate it yourself. You study the patterns, you read intentions, and you move in silence. You begin to see relationships, alliances, and opportunities for what they are. Temporary tools, not permanent foundations. This perspective doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear. You stop overvaluing people who bring little to your mission, and you start valuing discipline, intelligence, and foresight, the only assets that cannot betray you. Building self-reliance is not easy. It demands a kind of ruthless honesty with yourself. You must accept that no one owes you anything. You must admit that no matter how loyal people seem, their loyalty is conditional. The moment your downfall benefits them, they will vanish. This realization is not meant to make you bitter but wise. When you no longer expect support, every bit of help becomes a bonus, not a necessity. You become unshakable because your foundation is built on self-created certainty, not emotional dependency. That is when your mind transitions from survival to domination, when you stop reacting to life and begin engineering it. The strategically self-reliant person learns to convert obstacles into instruction. Every failure becomes data. Every betrayal becomes information. Every loss becomes motivation. Instead of seeking comfort, they seek comprehension. They analyze their weaknesses, refine their methods, and eliminate inefficiency. They move forward without noise, understanding that true advancement doesn't need recognition. It only needs results. They take setbacks personally, not in an emotional way, but in a calculated one, because they know every problem that arises is an opportunity to become sharper, harder, and more resilient than before. When you depend on others for your rise, you are at their mercy. But when your rise depends solely on your discipline and intelligence, you become a force that cannot be restrained. You are no longer bound by the moods, opinions, or fears of others. You no longer need anyone to believe in your potential, because your actions speak louder than their disbelief. You become self-directed, and in that self-direction lies freedom. You don't need a leader to tell you what to do. You've become one through your own consistency and clarity. Strategic self-reliance transforms your relationship with the world. You begin to see people differently, not as saviors or enemies, but as moving variables in a larger equation. You learn when to collaborate and when to walk away. You understand that alliances are useful, but dependence is fatal. You give loyalty sparingly and trust selectively, because you know that power is maintained not through attachment, but through awareness. You stop needing to be liked, and start needing to be effective. The praise of others no longer feeds you, results do. To walk this path is to walk alone at times, but that solitude becomes your edge. You build a mind that functions under pressure, a will that doesn't collapse under disappointment, and a focus that doesn't scatter under distraction. Every skill you acquire, every discipline you enforce, every principle you live by becomes another layer of armor around your purpose. Strategic self-reliance turns you into a system, one that grows stronger through adversity, one that evolves with every failure, one that cannot be dismantled simply because others withdraw their support. It is the art of standing alone, not out of pride, but out of precision, out of knowing that no one can carry your destiny. But your rejection is not the end. It is the hidden beginning of transformation. When people reject you, when doors close, when opportunities vanish, the average person feels defeated. They see rejection as a signal to stop, as a verdict on their worth. But the one who understands power sees rejection differently. He sees it as leverage, as a tool to refine his strategy, fuel his drive, and sharpen his instincts. The moment someone doubts you, they unknowingly hand you a kind of energy that no praise can ever give. Rejection becomes your catalyst, not your cage. It teaches you how to rise without applause and how to fight without recognition. When you are rejected, you are being tested. The world is asking a single question: do you really deserve what you want? Most people fail this test because they interpret rejection emotionally. They take it personally, drowning in bitterness or despair. But those who think strategically do not take rejection as an insult. They take it as information. They study it, they dissect it. They ask themselves, why was I denied? Was it timing, preparation, perception, or simply resistance to my rise? Every no contains data. Every closed door hides a lesson about how the world works and how you must adapt to outsmart it. Rejection reveals weakness. Once you see it, you can eliminate it. Rejection also reveals your enemies and your allies. When you fail, watch who disappears. The people who leave were never your supporters. They were spectators. Their loyalty existed only while you were convenient. This is a gift in disguise because it clears your path from pretenders. It allows you to operate with clarity, surrounded only by those who value substance over success. Every person who turns their back on you gives you more room to grow in silence. Their absence becomes space. Space to plan, space to evolve, space to build something that cannot be taken from you. In time, they'll realize their rejection wasn't your downfall, it was your training. The powerful do not beg for acceptance. They understand that rejection is a necessary purification. It strips you of neediness and forces you to become self-sufficient. You stop trying to prove your worth to people who cannot comprehend your vision. Instead, you use their doubt as confirmation that your path is beyond their understanding. You stop seeking validation, and you start seeking progress. Rejection transforms your hunger. It stops being about recognition and becomes about domination. You no longer want to be seen. You want to be undeniable. You want your work to speak with such authority that no opinion can silence it. Every time someone rejects you, you have two choices: to shrink or to rise. Most people shrink. They internalize rejection as truth, as evidence of their inferiority. But those who are destined to rise use rejection as a mirror. They ask, what did I fail to control? What perception did I overlook? What skill did I lack? This analysis turns pain into strategy. You become more dangerous because you begin to move with understanding, not emotion. You start crafting your next move not from hope, but from precision. The rejection that once burned you becomes fuel for your transformation. It no longer hurts you, it drives you. In silence, rejection becomes your most powerful motivator. The more people doubt you, the quieter you become, and the harder you work. You begin to appreciate the isolation that rejection creates. It gives you freedom from noise, from opinions, from interference. You become obsessed with improvement, refinement, and preparation. While others waste time seeking sympathy, you are building skill. While others explain their failures, you are correcting yours. And when you return with such force that those who once ignored you are forced to acknowledge what they refused to see. That is the power of leverage, using their disbelief as the foundation for your proof. Rejection also trains you to control your emotions. When you can face humiliation, failure, or abandonment without losing focus, you gain mastery over yourself. The man who cannot be emotionally broken cannot be strategically defeated. Rejection teaches you how to detach from outcomes, how to work without reward, how to keep moving even when no one notices. This detachment is not coldness, it's power. It allows you to operate without distraction, to keep your mind sharp and your goals clear. You stop fearing rejection, because you've learned that it is part of your evolution. It is the world's way of filtering out the unprepared. The truth is, rejection doesn't mean you're not good enough. It means the world isn't ready for your strength yet. The systems, the people, the circumstances, they reject what they cannot control. And that's what makes rejection so valuable. It exposes the limits of others while revealing your potential. The more resistance you face, the stronger you become if you learn to interpret it correctly. You stop waiting for acceptance and start crafting inevitability. You begin to design your own success so thoroughly that no one's opinion can alter your trajectory. To turn rejection into leverage is to stop seeing it as a wound and start seeing it as a weapon. Every rejection adds another layer to your resilience. Every setback adds another dimension to your understanding. You become harder to predict, harder to discourage, and impossible to stop. Eventually, the same people who rejected you will realize they were not rejecting your worth. They were fueling your evolution. What they meant to destroy you only made you more calculated, more disciplined, and more unshakable. When no one supports you, you are given a rare opportunity to become the kind of person who no longer needs support. Isolation sharpens your vision. Self-reliance builds your control. Rejection fuels your transformation. Every loss becomes a lesson. Every silence becomes strategy. Every doubt becomes leverage. The path may feel lonely, but that loneliness is sacred. It's where your identity is stripped of weakness, where your ambition becomes pure, and where your power takes form. Those who rely on others for strength rise quickly, but fall easily. But the one who builds himself in solitude, who learns to move with precision and patience, becomes untouchable. So when you find yourself alone, abandoned, or ignored, don't resist it. Use it. That's where real power is born. The world won't understand it now, but one day it will have no choice but to acknowledge what you became when no one believed in you.